3.6, then, we do have a speaker, Mr. Robert Mabee.
I'm at 3.1.
Mr. Mabee, you're on. This item 3.6 has been introduced by Supervisor Benoit. It's to really upgrade and modernize our campaign finance disclosure reporting requirements in the county by going electronic. Go ahead, Mr. Mabee.
Thank you for appointing me supervisor, Mr. Buster. I'm against Ordinance 913. We have a good system of financial disclosure that works. I will read from a following news report why we need a paper trail that will work and why the present system works. And I don't believe the county can police itself if they have this new system. And this gives a little background of what happened that the state took care of in campaign finance reporting. On Friday, in a little background of the person. On Friday, July 1st, 2011, the newspaper in Channel 9 ran a story about a county official who wants to break away from the state and create a new state. This is the same man who skimmed off nearly $400,000 of campaign money to his sister, along with a county car, and who wants to ration bathroom paper to county employees. The same man who in 1999, when he was mayor of Temecula and a pharmacist, agreed to a settlement with
Mr. Mabee?
I'm getting to the point. If you don't mind, I'm getting to the background of this and why they shouldn't pass this ordinance. It's embarrassing for you, but I think you need to hear it. All right, I'll get down to the heart of it then.
We have heard all that many times.
Yes, well, you can hear it once more. I have a right.
Tie it into item 3.6.
All right, here's what it is. Along with these other things that people should hear, this is the same man who the Press Enterprise Friday, June 10th, 2011, reported paid a $16,000 fine by the State Fair Political Practice Commission. That's something that does work. If the county creates something, it's not going to work because there's too many, it's too intertwined with everybody on this board.
Now, that's still not campaign finance disclosure. Would you please tie your comments into this agenda item?
Well, I think you shouldn't add another burden on the county and the expense of creating a new ordinance. I don't think you need it. I think what you already have in place takes care of reporting the finance for contributions, and I think it does a good job. And this proves that and what I'm going to say proves that it does a good job.
Mr. Mabee, the only thing that this ordinance would do would be to impose a duty to file electronically certain financial
I think it ought to be
already
I think it ought to be a paper trail, and I believe they already have something that does a good job on it. In this instance, it did do a good job with Supervisor Stone. He paid a $16,000 fine by the State Fair Political Practice Commission. I think they do a good job. I don't think you need to add something on that you're not going to, even if you have a new ordinance, you're not going to enforce it anyway.
It's interesting that the state FPPC also posts these fines on their electronic website. So we're trying to go electronic with a slightly different item here.
What you're doing,
thanks for your comments.
What you're doing is the next election in June, you're trying to make it easier for yourself and Mr. Stone, who's going to run for election. And anything you go to do like this, it's going to be for your benefit, not for the taxpayers' benefit or for the people. No, what they have in place does a good job. You don't need to make it easier for corrupt politicians. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Mr. Mabee. Supervisor Benoit.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We bring 3.6 to the board's consideration today after a considerable period of time preparing this. The purpose of this ordinance is to take a good system and make it better. It does not add a new burden. In fact, relieves the burden at the registrar's office that currently has to take, in a limited number of cases, those entities that file on paper rather than electronically, has to individually go through each of those reports, redact some information, and then in a PDF file, place it online for view later. And the problem with that system is that it takes sometimes 6 weeks or longer after the election cycle for that information then to become public and be transparent to not only the candidate, his opponent or opponents, and the public in general, and in this case primarily through the media, that watches these online disclosures quite carefully during an election cycle period. So this is an item that would then require everyone in Riverside County who, and we've increased, and the reason we pulled it off the agenda a month ago is I noticed that it captured everybody who spent $1,000 or more. This has been increased to $5,000 in the ordinances before you. And that is exclusive, as I understand it, of the registration fee. So someone could actually pay for the registration fee and still spend $4,500 and not be caught by this. We didn't want to catch the grassroots campaigner and create a burden that would preclude anybody from running for office. But if you hit that threshold of $5,000 in excess of filing fees, you are a serious candidate. And in fact, a number of relatively reasonably priced, inexpensive online services are available that will help you file these electronic reports at very little cost to the campaign. We believe it's a huge step in the direction of transparency. All the members of this board are already doing this. There are only one or two exceptions in the county in the past that have not already begun doing this. This will make it an even playing field for all players. So with that, I would ask for your support, and after we've made the revisions that I think make this a very supportable initiative.
Now, if anything, my support for this has been reinforced by your comments, Mr. Mabee, and others who are concerned that it somehow, concerned that this somehow protects the status quo, enhances incumbency. It's hard to know the outcome of better and more prompter, accurate information. But as someone who is, I campaigned a grassroots campaign my first time out. I've participated in a lot of other campaigns where our side has been vastly outspent. Even the most recent pension campaigns here are illustrative of that. And what I would say is that, if anything, getting accurate information more quickly, which is what this does, about money, about campaign funding, where particularly in the closing days of a campaign, where you may have a close election, where people are looking, where the tide may turn on just an impression that people get. Particularly, a lot of voters here are concerned about the influence of big money, about special interests, pushing things one way or another, undermining the democratic process. So this kind of transparency and this kind of alacrity at getting this information, if anything, it's going to help the little guy. It's going to help the average citizen and the average voter and grassroots organizers in getting the word out at who's funding, who's pouring money in, particularly in the closing days of a major close election. So we'll see. But this board, I think, is making an important step here, an important statement that can lead in other productive directions as well. So I appreciate Supervisor Benoit's spade work on this and refining this ordinance, and I'm happy to support it. Any other board comments? Supervisor Stone.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I support the agenda item. I applaud Supervisor Benoit. This is going to make the election process transparent to anyone that is watching what's going on. In life, sometimes we make mistakes, and I had a treasurer that was running my Senate campaign that did not fully understand the electronic reporting. We even argued about it. As a result, he didn't file in a timely way, and Mr. Mabee is absolutely right. Our campaign was fined $16,000 by the FPPC. My treasurer accepted 100% responsibility for it. My treasurer paid the $16,000 fine, and that put an end to the issue. We definitely understand now, if we ever run for state office again, which I doubt, that electronic reporting is complicated, and it's something that needs to be done. I'm hoping that the instructions to the electronic campaign finance disclosure is going to be something that will be distributed to all campaign consultants, something that should be easily downloadable from the registrar's office, because we want to make sure that people fully understand how to do this, because it is complicated. And but I think this is a good step in showing who is financing campaigns in Riverside County, because they're going to have to be notice to the public immediately when they exceed a certain threshold, and I think the public has a right to know. So, Supervisor Benoit, good job.
And so far, we thank goodness that even with all the modern day transparency, that we don't have treasurers like the now notorious lady who capsized several lots of incumbents here. Supervisor Benoit.
Just one final thanks to County Council for working through multiple revisions to get it to the floor today, and I would move approval.
Second.
And voting?
Chairman, I just handed you a speaker slip.
Speaker slip? Oh, thank you for reminding me. Mr. Grant, late speaker slip.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Gary Grant, and I submitted this application on behalf of Francois Chiquette, by virtue of the fact that he's a member of RCUC and wishes to request discussion of that matter and is unable to attend this meeting today. So there is a DVD that he'd like to present, and it's ready to go now.
This is on item 3.6.
3.6, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're not getting the audio on this one.
Possibly a little different from this background here. The real reason why we have this is because there was some serious problems in the June 8 elections last year. Not only some of the paperwork got filed late, but a lot of the most damning paperwork got filed on paper as opposed to electronically. Now, when you file on paper, it's impossible to do a Google search on it because it's an image. So it turns out that all the things some candidates were trying to hide were shown filed on paper. Now, there was a fine imposed because some of the paperwork got filed late. Mr. Stone was fined $16,000. He blamed his accountant for the fine, and the accountant paid for the fine. Now, a lot of the contributions to Mr. Stone came from 34 Scientologists. They were mostly out of state, and they totaled $50,027. I consider that a stealth political action committee because it far exceeded the limit of $3,900. The problem with this ordinance here is that it's actually not really necessary. Most candidates already file electronically. We just need to say, hey, you know, it's got to be filed electronically, and that's it. But instead, we're going to spend about $20,000 on this ordinance, and it's really not necessary. The only people that were violating this were politicians that were trying to hide contributions because they could not be searched on the internet. Also, several months ago, Mr. Grant of the Riverside Watcher Group and I submitted 12 suggestions, and none of them ended up on this ordinance. So it's very important that these documents be shown to the public. For example, the latest set of filings by Mr. Stone, in there you will find many, many payments to this supposedly incompetent accountant. Well, it turns out Mr. Stone, during the last 6 months, well after all these events from last year, paid this accountant $14,358 to make this report here, presumably. That's about all he needs to do. So, Mr. Stone, I did the math for you. You only have to pay $1,642 to refund the $16,000 fine on your accountant. Thank you.
All right. This is a new form of communication, testimony in absentia, but we accept it, enjoy it, and love the patriotic demeanor.
If
Mr.
I could
Benoit.
respond just briefly. The last speaker said all we have to do is say file electronically. Would that it was that simple. What you have before you is what it requires of us to make that statement to everybody who is in a county race, and it is the ordinance, and if you break it down, what it says is you have to file electronically now. It is exclusively to races involving Riverside County. The race that was mentioned by this last speaker was a state office race. The rules that applied are the FPPC. We've mirrored some of that in this language, but it is not germane to the discussion with regard to this agenda item. So I would once again move approval of the item.
Second.
And voting? And that carries 5 ayes.